his stability on the truth, his solidity on the truth is so much so that nothing can deter him. People are throwing him into the fire. His father is kicking him out of the house. Later on in his life, he's told to sacrifice his son. And so much more happened to him. He left his young son and his wife in a desert. Allah told him to do that. He left them there. Allah told him, sacrifice your son. He was ready to do that. And so much more. Where does that kind of belief come from? And you kind of start to see that when you study his, alayhi salam, his childhood, how he arrived at the truth. An inquisitive mind, exploring the world, exploring it bit by bit by bit, questioning it at every stop, until he arrived at the truth. Do you understand what I'm saying? So now, this is just a preliminary story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, but there are a few lessons that I want you to take away from here. Few lessons that every Muslim child, every Muslim youth, and in extension every adult Muslim needs to take away from the legacy of this coolest man. And how cool he was as a child. 1, he was not afraid, and I'm going to ask you this in a second here. He was not afraid to stand up for what did not make sense. Anything that he couldn't make sense of, that doesn't seem right, that doesn't seem okay, that doesn't make sense to me, he stood up and he questioned it. What is that? Can you explain that to me? Why do you do that? What's the purpose? What's the end goal? Where does it come from?
I'm afraid of doing that. I'm also afraid of correcting an adult.
Precisely. Which is normal, right? But then what do we learn from Ibrahim alayhi salam? He asked questions. He asked questions. He asked and questioned everything around him. The entire fabric of life was questioned by this young dude, alayhi salam. He questioned it. And when he touched that sensitive button, things started to explode. And I'll get to the benefit of, Zara, go over there. I'll get to the benefit of what, yes, he questioned everything. Yes, he put himself into a lot of struggle. But the legacy he left behind, oh my God. The legacy this man left behind, by those questionings, by standing up for what seemed to be right, what seemed to be true, his legacy, his example remains with us until the end of time. Remains with us until the end of time. I'll come to that. Number one, he had no fear in standing up and questioning things. Why is that? Why is that? Why does this happen? What are you doing there? And he's not being arrogant. He's not being insolent. He's not like, oh, Father, you know what? I'm going to question everything you do. That's just what I want to do. No, it really didn't make sense to him. And when it really didn't make sense to him, he questioned it.
But there is a lot of questions just for a young little man.
It is. The guts on this guy. But then, number 2, what kind of questions did he ask? He asked intelligent, inquisitive questions. He didn't just blurt out, Baba, why are you eating a piece of bread? Why are you not eating rice? That's a dumb question to ask. It's not a dumb question. Like, you want to know, yes, you can ask, and I can give you an answer. But the reasons he asked the questions is because it just didn't make sense to him. And so when does something not make sense to you? When does something not make sense to you? When you actually think about it. When you're actually sitting there and going, why are they doing that? That doesn't seem right. Stones, they don't move. They don't say anything. Why are they worshiping them like that? Why are they offering a piece of stone food? Why are they offering a drink? Like, there's a fly coming and sitting down on the drink, and this stone can't even say anything about his own drink. Why are they worshiping him? So you see that inquisitive mind? You see the questions in his own mind? Until he thought about them, he didn't say them out loud. When he's thought about them, he's given it enough thought. Now he's like, why are you doing that? Can you explain it to me? He's respectful. He says, Ya Abi.
He's intelligent.
He doesn't say, hey, dumb man, what are you doing? He respects his father. He respects his people. He loves his people. But then he does question. And so two things that we learned from there. One, actually, two things that we learned. Number one, he stood up for the truth when it didn't make sense. Number two, he questioned, but he questioned in a respectful way. He maintained, so he was wise. He had wisdom. He understood that you can't just insult people like that. But you need to question something that doesn't make sense. It's a very fine balance to have. Zahra and Nahi understand this. Very fine balance to have. To have respect on one side, but also to question something that just doesn't make sense. Both of those you need to have. You can't be the dumb little kid that just blurts out a question without thinking, without respect. With Zahra, you question. You need to have respect for elders. Definitely. Definitely. But then you also, Allah demands that you question something that just doesn't seem right. You have to question it. Like we questioned a few days ago. Some people are saying suhoor is when the adhan of Fajr has gone off. Some people say suhoor ends when the light of the sun starts to break the horizon. We're taught that it's Fajr. But then other people say that it's like, and now we're faced with this dilemma. We need to start asking questions. Which one really is it? And we need to do our research, and we need to come to conclusions and come to the truth.
We're all very confused.
True. But the last thing that really strikes about this young dude, alayhi salam, he had this innate love for his people. He didn't hate them. The reason why he stood up in the bazaar and he talked to the people, tried to knock some sense into them, is because he loved them. He loved his father, and he didn't want to see these people go to a bad place, do things that just didn't make sense, waste their lives. You understand what I'm saying? So let's sum this up.
Summary?
Summary. How does a little man, little boy, alayhi salam, arrive at the truth?
I have no idea.
He arrives at the truth by questioning what doesn't make sense. Anything that doesn't make sense, he questions. But he questions with an inquisitive mind. He questions with he's thoughtful, he's intelligent. He looks at it deeply and tries to make sense of it first himself. And then he starts to question. And then he takes time out for himself and he looks at everything around him. And he surveys and examines everything around him. And he asks questions about that. And then he arrives at the truth. And then he preaches that truth. He says that truth out to everyone because he loves all his people. That is the level of belief. That's how a person arrives at the truth. And when you arrive at the truth in that manner, it's basically a formula that Allah has given us in the Quran. It's so amazing. The reasons why, remember I told you Allah doesn't just tell you stories. There are reasons why He tells you the stories. So remember, we're doing tadabbur. So why is Allah telling us this story, a detailed story? He gives not one, not two, 5 ayats of the Quran. 5 ayats of the Quran in Surah Al-An'am are devoted to Ibrahim a.s. just sitting there and looking at the stars and the sun. He devotes it to that in detail. Star comes up, is that my God? No, goes down. Moon comes up, is that my God? No, moon goes down. Sun comes up, is that my God? No, sun goes down. Detailed description of what Ibrahim a.s. just did and sat there and did. And the reason why Allah is giving us that is that Allah is showing you one of the reasons, and this is my own tadabbur, one of the reasons is that Allah is showing us how do you arrive at the truth. Allah didn't say believe in me unless you're sure. Allah didn't say, everybody in the world has to believe. Allah said seek the truth. That is the highest pursuit that you can have. Seek the truth. And to seek the truth, you have to do what Ibrahim a.s. did. I'm not saying wipe your brain clear and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to just go from zero, not believe Allah is there, because you already believe Allah is there. But you need to show yourself the reason why you believe in Allah. You need to question it. And look at the world around you, come back to His ayah, and link those two together. Because Allah has given you the ultimate guidance. Allah has shown you the truth. But you need to link it for yourself. If you don't have an inquisitive mind, you're not questioning everything you're seeing, then you're never going to be arriving at the truth. And the level of belief, may Allah give us that level of belief. I don't know if that's possible in this day and age, where He's ready to sacrifice His son at a dream that he saw. Allah give us that level of belief, inshallah. That's how it comes. And that's the lesson I'm going to leave you with today. The lesson I'm going to leave you with today is, if we are not going down that path of seeking the truth, then we may never arrive at the truth. And we need to do that. Okay? We'll go into more stories of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and I'll take some opinions from you, what other stories you want to listen to, and we'll go through a series of stories from prophets and kind of derive these lessons from what the prophets did and why they did them. Inshallah. Was this fun? Mm-hmm. You learned something?
I learned that Prophet Ibrahim has been through really serious tests.
MashaAllah.
And he was so brave to do them all.
Exactly. Barakallahu fi wa lakum fil Quran al Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.